Friends, welcome to another very special hobby stream here from us at Hobby Titans. I'm Zach, and I just have one thing to say about the man to my left. Interpol, Opus Dei, Illuminati, whoever, we keep telling you he knows nothing about the haunting Maui on Easter Island, their construction, nor the shocking disappearance of the Rapa Nui people. Stop asking.
Yeah, no idea.
Brett, my friend, how you doing?
Really good.
Great, I'm glad to hear it.
What are we doing tonight, Zach?
Brett is always surprised by whatever I come up with.
Yeah, in case you guys wonder, I had no warning about the Zach's unique and flavorful intros. It's always just as much of a surprise for me as it is for you.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad. It keeps it fresh that way, I think. Today, we're doing a couple different things. So Brett is working on a new army that he has underway.
Yeah, we're doing a bit of a smorgasbord.
Yeah. So what are you?
I'm working on some Black Tzemplars. We put it up for a vote to you guys, and Bladeguard won. So I've got myself my first ever Bladeguard model here. We're going to be painting this up in Black Templar scheme.
Yep. Which you've done a few of, right? Already?
I've got a few sample models here. Yeah, I've got some Terminators. I've got some Vanguard vets that I've done previously, but this will be my first time painting the scheme onto a Primaris model.
Awesome. So while Brett is painting his Bladeguard, which is a big model, lots of armor, I'm going to be painting this little guy, which you can't see from this camera angle, but I promise you'll be quite acquainted with him by the end of our stream today. And this is a Tzaangor. They are the sort of, monster beastie little guys of the Thousand Suns?
Yeah, I think of them as the Thousand Suns Kroot.
The Kroot of Chaos is how Brett and I as Tau players like to think of them. So, very excited. We're going to be going through a lot of different steps here on this guy, and probably quite a few for Brett, too.
Yeah, and we'll talk through it all. This is a little different. We're not, we're working on different projects today, whereas we normally, work together on one. So it'll feel a little different, but hopefully just as fun and interesting for you guys.
Brett, you ready to get creative?
I am.
Let's do it. Okay, so what you guys are seeing here are my Tzaangors. Obviously, I have painted some up for two reasons. One, so I knew what I was doing and had a scheme, had an idea of how I want to do that. But of course, also for these videos. So my Tzaangors are really inspired, believe it or not, by Mardi Gras. I wanted to have gold, purple, and green together. They still sort of match my Thousand Suns. That's, of course, the army that they're part of. But they really don't have the blue that the Thousand Suns have on them. So, and even my Tzaangor skin isn't blue. So we'll talk about that. And as I go, yeah, I know, right? And as I go through and talk about the way that I painted them, I'll be sure to kind of give you guys some thoughts on how you could do them blue if blue is what you wanted to do. And that is like a little more traditional, right? So basically, we're going to jump in here pretty quick. Because these guys, we're only doing one, and this is like the least amount of surface area I think we've ever painted on stream.
I know, yeah. Normally we're about quantity and quality.
Yeah.
Today we're not going to do quantity.
Not going to do quantity, and I've even already done a couple steps on him that I'd like to go over with people.
Sure.
So, Brad, I did not mark down my top down. Let's see if we can find it. So there it is.
Okay.
Okay, and can we get the zoom?
Yep.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So let me show you guys the steps I've already done on my Tzaangor here and kind of talk through them a little bit. First, my Tzaangor is sub-assembled, believe it or not, and there you go. And if you look at this Tzaangor, the sub-assembly is awesome. This is mostly his skin, and he's got his two weapons here, his two golden weapons. Okay, I already painted those. I'll talk about how I did that. I also already painted his golden armor, and you're probably thinking, well, wait, that's a big deal. We want to see that. It's not that big of a deal, I promise.
It's not a big deal.
I'll talk through how I did it. In fact...
Don't tell me what's a big deal, Zach.
I know. So, they were first painted with another Turbodor color. This color is called Pucker. And it is like a neutral gold. I say neutral gold because there are warm golds, there are cool golds. This one is, I consider like a very neutral gold. Put a little bit of it out here for you. This is a really nice color. I will say this. I'm a big fan of Turbodor paints. I will say this color needs a little bit of babysitting, I found. Through an airbrush, it's pretty good. I was quite happy with it through an airbrush. Any kind of brush work that you're doing with it, you got to kind of really be careful with it. You need a lot of thin coats. I think it goes best, honestly, over something like lead belcher, like a dark silver. And so that is what I mostly did whenever I hand painted it. We will possibly need to hand paint this a little bit today, but I'm not sure. So that's the first thing. And when I did paint this guy so far, I left his legs not painted gold because we're going to paint those skin color. And after painting the gold, the next step is we applied an airbrush tint, just like we tint terrain. And we tinted gold the way I know Brian likes to tint gold, and a lot of people like to tint gold, with Drucali Violet with a purple.
Yep.
It is a really good look, I will say this.
Purple tint over gold is kind of the classic way to make gold look good.
I think that's correct if the gold is neutral or warm. I think if the gold is cool, which I would describe that one, I know Adrian likes Relicator Gold, I think it's called.
Never sprayed gold.
Yeah, there's a lighter, kind of cooler, silvery type gold. I know that Citadel makes. Does not look as good, in my opinion, over that.
Okay.
Likewise, there is still room to wash black over gold.
Yeah.
It still does look good. It does different things. Gold, purple really kind of makes the gold, I feel like, sort of like come to life.
Yep.
It looks, I'll say this, purple washed over gold looks like it's a piece that's been in your grandmom's dining room since like the 50s.
It's tarnished.
And it's never really been, and it's almost like we like it that way. It's been in the
Right.
family for forever.
Got character.
It's got character. Black over gold makes it look like if it's, I do it for terrain often because
Right.
it makes it look like it's getting weathered, it's getting beaten up by the elements.
Been out in the elements, yeah.
It's not a majestic weathering like purple gives you.
I feel like purple is, oxidation, whereas black, if you were to, tint with black over gold, it'd be like, like you said, weathering, like dirt and grime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can also do like Seraphim Sepia or like a brown Reichland Flesh Shade.
Right.
Agrax is a little cool, but I think it could also look good.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, so
How about I give a quick overview of what I'm going to be doing?
Do it. Yeah,
while
yeah,
you're
yeah.
doing that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I've got my model here. I've pre-assembled him and primed him, and then I'm going to do a quick top-down. So I've got, I was doing some color sample testing here. I'm doing these Black Templar similar in color scheme to this, to Brian's Black Templar. So these are actually dark blue model. Like the base color is dark blue. The white is like, and I realize it's kind of hard to see, guys, but the white is.
do you want to pass them here? Do you want me to hold them?
Oh yeah, sure. Here we go. So the white is like an ivory, a bone color that then gets a sepia ink applied in the crevices in the corners of the of the shoulder pads. And I'm using purple for the energy effects on the lightning claws.
Which look really nice.
And then the eyes are red, and here, if I give you a chainsword guy, he also has a red for like the bolters and chainswords and stuff. And then there's some metallics, like a metallic silver applied to the blades. So that's what we're gonna be doing today. I've got a couple different blues that we're gonna go through. I'm gonna bring it up from a dark color. So I'm using, for the blues, I'm using our Reaper paints. So here we go. I've got the darkest one is Blue Liner. This is basically almost a base coat. It mostly ends up being this second color, which is Midnight Blue. That's sort of the color the thing is that we're going to be using. That's this one. And then the highlights are this Templar Blue. So I'll do the edge highlighting with this, as well as just a little light blast in the center of the panels to bring out some texture in those big flat panels that Space Marines have. So that's what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah. Can I get a zoom, Brad?
Yeah,
I'm going to show my first step here. So, one of the things you guys know that I like to do when I do terrain is paint something a color, tint it, and then dry brush it with that color again. Now there's a couple approaches to dry brushing over top of gold to get to like pop a little bit. One is to do silver. I actually find that silver really adds to like the tarnished kind of feel of the purple. So to just have purple washed gold that really like sings to life, like it's just been, like I said, tarnished majestically. What I would say is literally dry brush it with the same color that's underneath the wash. Okay, and that's what I'm doing right here. So this guy has not been dry brushed yet, but I'm gonna just go ahead and hit it with the with pucker as a dry brush. Pretty much, very much a dry brush. You know, we always talk about dry brush versus overbrush. Very much a dry brush. The rest of the model is going to be painted other things so far, so I don't care if I'm hitting the legs a little bit here, and nor do I care about the cloth. I'm gonna paint that by hand. Everything else. So this is pretty cool. My gold armor is done. And I already did the weapons while Brett was showing you guys what he's up to, but you can see same thing, and it helps really kind of sing it to life. So airbrushed pucker, okay, 1, then 2, airbrushed Druchely Violet, let that dry, and then dry brushed back again with pucker, and that's how you get this
Oh, looks really good.
This gold that has a little bit of character to it, yeah. Okay, there's our gold armor already done, and again, I did pre-do a couple steps just because they're not super interesting. I'm going to do my first airbrush step here, and I'll kind of walk you guys through what I'm doing. We've done skin on the channel on a few occasions now. The Tzaangors skin is a little less involved than the ogre skin that I did for my Beast Claw Raiders and our Gargant skin.
Yeah, are you doing multi-shades for these guys?
Not a lot, very little. So we have a formula that we use. We're going to use Mechanica Standard Gray. Then we're going to use a known oil.
Okay.
In all airbrush, and we're going to let that get into the recesses and dry. Once that's dried, our final coat is Othron Gray. This is like pretty much a white. It's like a very cool, slightly gray white.
Yeah, a lot of people use Othron Gray as white. If they're painting, White Scars, or they're painting Viora Latau, or they're painting some army that is white, they'll use Othron Gray as the color because a lot of painting true white is super painful.
Yeah,
it actually doesn't look very good. Like a really light gray is a much better white.
Yeah, now
in the same way that a really dark gray is a much better black than black.
Exactly, or and something right with a little bit of character other than. Totally agree, and as you guys know at home who've watched, I like to use white really as like just a highlight.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so I am just knocking out the first base coat on my Tzaangor, which is Mechanica Standard Gray. If you wanted to do blue Tzaangor skin, I would probably use something like Cantor Blue, just some kind of very dark blue. And instead of using non-oil to wash into the recesses, I'd use Drakenhof Nightshade or something dark blue. Remember, the idea behind the way I like to do skin with an airbrush is base coat, then I use a wash, or maybe I do a second coat, kind of depending. And I let that wash really get in the recesses, and then I do a very light color, like Othron Gray. I know chat's making fun of me for mispronouncing all these Drukhari colored names incorrectly.
That's fine, don't worry about it. It's loving.
Yeah,
loving
of
teasing.
Course. Anyway, the last coat is something like Othron Gray or Ushanti Bone, or you guys know I always talk about the Skull White and the Snow White from Minotaur. So that's sort of my particular formula. I am using my Sotar for this, and to knock out 30 Tzaangors kind of quick.
Yeah.
But I still have them looking decent. It's a good tool, to be honest with you. I know we don't always like to. I don't know we like to do stuff without an airbrush, but in this particular case,
and I'm basically going to be doing airbrush for just the main armor panels on this guy, on this Bladeguard. And then doing a lot of brushwork for all the trim. So I guess maybe I would call my The work that I'm going to be doing today, a little more classic. I'm just, not using airbrush as much, just for applying base coat, a little bit of highlight on the panels. And then you're sort of doing the more advanced technique where you've got more airbrushing to save yourself more time. And you've broken it up into sub-assemblies to try to take advantage of the airbrush as much as possible. I've just built mine. And we're painting it.
The Tzaangors do sub-assembly very well.
Yeah, we were talking about that before the show. They, GW designed the kit almost with airbrushing in mind, it seems like, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, well, I was saying that I don't think that they always care or do that.
Yeah.
Even though they sell a line of air paints, which I think are really good air paints. But it does sort of seem like the Tzaangors are almost like, they're built perfect for an airbrush. Because of the two parts you can put them in.
Right.
The only exception to that is that they have a mask, which some of the Tzaangors do. I actually picked a Tzaangor that does not have a mask today. And you do need to be a little careful around the feet. Brad, if we can just get a quick zoom, I'll show people what I'm up to. So there we go. Non-oil, airbrushed carefully with the Sotar to give it. Well, the legs are almost finished. They just need one more coat. And you can see the non-oils kind of like falling into the recesses here. And that's what we want because we want the light gray color to, it's a little transparent. So the gradients that we've created here will show through once we use Othron gray. Brett, we should bring up the weird thing we encountered when we put up the stream a day early today.
Oh yeah. Which
is that we noticed that it looks like, well, there's maybe we don't know how YouTube's interface works, but I think we do. We noticed that there was looks like there were super chats.
It looks
potentially. So I guess what we want to say is,
but they don't show up here.
They're not showing up. So if anyone did super chat. They got weirdly deleted or something.
Yeah, not quite sure.
Yeah, and we were really not quite sure at all.
Yeah, Jonathan had some chat messages before the stream started about games without any context. So a little confused about what was happening before the stream started.
Kind of spooky
in chat.
Some spooky.
There's like multiple conversations, and then things got deleted, and then. It shows
that super
somebody
chat
donated, but there's no evidence of it.
Yes.
Anyway.
Well, there is evidence of it. We can see the amounts that were donated, but there was nothing tied to it. So if you're in chat and you're like, hey, I had a question and I donated, and it really is you, we'll know if it isn't. I think. Actually, I don't know if we'll know.
Also, it doesn't matter.
Also, it doesn't matter. Anyway, if you're there.
If you're there, thank you.
Thank you. And if you have a question, let us know. It looks like it got deleted. Okay, Brett. Sorry I'm hogging a little bit of the attention here on my process, but I'm gonna, while I let the non-oil dry, which won't take that long, I'm gonna paint one of my favorite things in the world to paint that I've decided after painting some Beast Claw Raiders, and that is horns.
Yes.
So
horns.
I'm gonna just quick knock out my two sets of horns, even though I only have one Tzaangor. My cork shows, as you can see here, I love on my cork to have two things. And these horns right here are kind of like one of the bigger sets of horns that come in the Tzaangor kit. So I think this guy's gonna be my twist bray. And a twist bray is like the boss Tzaangor. The extra attack, the extra leadership kind of a thing. Okay, horns. I love painting horns. We're gonna paint horns in this kind of way that allows the top part of the horn, here's a finished Tzaangor, to be black. And if you ever go to like a Texas Roadhouse or some other steakhouse chain, if you're in the US, these are everywhere. If you're in Europe or you're in Asia or Australia, then I know they're also everywhere because I know it's like one of everyone's favorite parts of U.S. culture is to like go to a steakhouse and see like the horns, right? I'm sure there's like so many restaurants all over the world that have like Texas stuff and California and New York stuff all combined into one restaurant.
And that's why everyone thinks that's what the United States is.
And we live in California, so for us that pretty much is the United States, unless we go to Texas, which we haven't recently. So first step is Mournfang Brown. And what I'm going to do is, these have been primed. I'm going to go ahead and let the primer mostly be present up at the top. So I'm not really covering very much. I'm only covering like the bottom 2/3 of the horns.
Yeah.
The top third, I'm going to leave black. And do make sure you get the back of the horns too. Believe me, they can be visible. But you can see the top is going to be left black. Okay, but we get that nice little fade here. Obviously, I put way too much Mournfang Brown in my airbrush since I'm doing 2 horns. I'm covering about a 1/4 square inch of surface area.
Zach, I just want to highlight like a difference in style here. Like my approach to and we've talked about this before. My approach to airbrushing is always to like put in just as much paint as I think I'll need, and then refill it if I underestimated. And you're the only person I've ever known who like just fills their airbrush cup, paints with it, and then pours it back. And I don't know that there's necessarily like one better way or another. I just said it never would have occurred to me that you could put paint back into the bottle after pouring it into your airbrush.
We talk about this a lot, and not that there's anything wrong with saving money. It doesn't have anything actually to do with saving money, as I always say. It honestly has more to do with like, will I run out of this paint midway through the army?
Right.
And what can I do to prevent that? And the answer is use it and then like keep an eye on it.
Yeah. You know what I think? Why is because I add stuff to my paint and you don't. You know, I'll add like flow improver or acrylic retarder to it, which I wouldn't then want to like pour that back into the bottle.
So I actually do that often as well. And when I do add thinner, if I'm adding thinner to the paint in the pot, in my airbrush pot, then it stands to reason that paint needs to be thinned.
Right.
So I then will just dump that back.
Just dump it back.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
And if it's like, well, what about if you want to brush it and you need it to be thicker? Well, then I just pull it out, put it on paper rather than a wet palette, and let it sit for like 30 seconds.
No, I guess it's not even that. It's like, in theory, if you did that a bunch of times, you added a little bit of thinner and then poured it back into your pot, and then the next time you went to use it, you poured it from the pot back into your airbrush along with some additional thinner, and then you didn't use all of it, and you poured it back in the pot. Like the last little bit of paint in the pot, when you finally get around to finishing up that pot of paint, would have like a lot more thinner in it than... I don't know if that matters or not.
I don't know.
Probably not.
I guess in my mind, I don't
overthinking it.
In my mind, I don't overthink this.
Yeah.
And I don't really have a lot of issues with this. I was saying earlier I had issues with pucker. And I have 2 bottles of pucker here. One has a bunch of thinner in it and one doesn't. I can actually, maybe I can show chat what they look like, the difference between the 2. But I found pucker, and there's another Turbo Dork one that is giving me some issues. It's blue steel, which I use a lot. Every other Turbo Dork paint has been great. And I will also say that Turbo Dork doesn't love the Sotar. It's very thin, like needles. But I can, on stream, I forget when it was, I shot Citadel Lair paint through my Badger.
Yeah.
That was when we were doing the Ultramarine Dreads.
So the Sotar has sort of standard airbrush needles, 0.5 millimeters, and the Sotar has a 0.2 millimeter airbrush needle. So it's like out of the box. Obviously, you can. Yeah. Most of these airbrushes, you can put different size needles in them if you want, but out of the box, it has a much smaller airbrush needle than sort of the standard size.
Yes. Can I show where my horns are at?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just did Mournfang Brown, and then actually what I really just did is Talaran Sand. Okay, so there's the horns so far. Mournfang Brown is really a base coat to kind of be there to just let the Talaran Sand not go over top of the black. Now, here's where things get, in my opinion, a little interesting. I'm going to use Ushanti Bone. And what I'm going to use with Ushanti Bone is I'm not going to hit the top. Of course, I'm leaving the top black. Nor am I going to hit down closer to the bottom. If you look at horns, if you go online, or better yet, to a local steakhouse, and you look at the horns hanging up on the wall, you'll notice that they go from kind of like a brown, cream, khaki color. They get lighter, and then they get darker at the end. And I have no idea why that is.
Because they put metal caps on the end of their horns.
Maybe, but I think that they also... Is that why?
No, I don't.
Okay. So I hit sort of the middle here, make sure my Ushanti bone's coming out nice. I hit sort of in the middle. I don't go up too high. nor do I go down too low.
I was planning on paintbrushing these shoulder pads, but maybe I should airbrush them.
You should always airbrush.
Ushabti bone? Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that, but also you should always airbrush shoulder pads, I feel like.
Well, the last time I did these, I did like 7 coats of
Oh yeah, that's why.
ivory color over.
Sounds like you just answered why. Brett, you just answered the question of why you should always airbrush.
Yeah, it takes like for whatever reason, these like beige
Yeah, they don't.
ivory colored paints don't cover very well at all.
Just like any yellow, white, right? Like.
So I'm using, instead of Ushabti bone, I'm using a Vallejo model color called Deck Tan. It's very similar.
Deck?
Deck Tan.
D-E-C-K?
D-E-C-K.
What is that?
Like a wooden structure that
I
is
know,
behind your house.
but what is it? Is it like the tan? Are they tanned? Or is it
I don't
a
know.
tan you get when you like sit out on the deck?
Oh, interesting. It is a tan. Is it a tan you get while sitting on the deck?
Depending on your skin color, because honestly, that is a cool khaki. You would have to be a translucent albino, maybe very light skin color if that was a tan, I think.
No, that's interesting. I had never, I had not thought about it that much.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But I don't think of that as like a color of a deck.
Yeah, I don't either.
Although, you know, GW colors
I'll start a poll in chat and we can.
No. Why is it called deck tan? Okay, after all my colors are on, so I'll put them out here so that when we cut back, you can see the order here on my horns. Mournfang brown, Talaran sand, Ushabti bone. Finally, I use Seraphim sepia, which I love this color. I use this for my leather and I use this for my bone. And now I'm going to hit it again with this, with Seraphim sepia. And this time I am going to let the sepia go on the black. What ends up happening is kind of cool. You get this like just in the right light. The black will have like little elements of brown to it. I have one of my one of my cats at home is a black cat, and in the like when he's sitting on our patio in the right sunlight, you can actually see, and anyone who has a black cat, you'll probably notice this. You can actually see that their fur is actually like brown. It's like insanely dark brown, and you only really get to see that when like it gets hit by light a particular way. So I love like having the Seraphim sepia over top of the black like this, because it's like very subtle. You can tell there's something on top of it, but not much beyond that. So this thing is going to dry here for a second. There's only 2 steps left on the horns. I do, obviously, when I paint my Tzaangors, or a lot of my Beast Claw Raiders also have horns. If horns can be separated from the body like they are for the Tzaangors, which again, super awesome, thank you Games Workshop, definitely keep them separated from the body.
Yeah.
The horns here for the Tzaangors.
Because that's basically the only way you can airbrush them, right?
Yeah, and horns are this thing that like look very good airbrushed.
They look really, exactly.
If you can do this, they really want to be airbrushed. Assembling the whole model, airbrushing it all the color, and then being like, I'll go with a hand brush and paint the horns.
Yeah.
To get some really cool effects like the black tips, the ombre, the different like the medium brown and the light brown up into the black.
Yep.
I think you'd have
That's
to be.
That's a lot of wet blending.
I think you'd have to be a really, really strong painter to do that by hand.
Man, I'm thinking of it in the context of these lightning claws that I did on the Salt Marines or I guess Vanguard veterans. I did those wet blended, and as soon as I did 4 of them, I was like, that was dumb. I should have just airbrushed them.
Yes, definitely.
Gradient.
Okay, I'm gonna let this Seraphim sepia dry a little bit. Again, that won't take long. You'll recall I was letting known oil on the Tzaangor skin dry, and that is now dry. So now we're gonna add the final color to the Tzaangor skin. And then you're kind of thinking, cool, so the Tzaangor skin is done. And the answer is kind of, but there's a lot of little weird things on their skin that we're gonna have to address because they're Tzeenchi and they have weird spines
things
sticking out of their skin. Where have we heard that before, by the way? Yeah, they really are like the Kroot of chaos.
Chaos Kroot.
Yeah.
All right.
Where are you at, Brett?
I'm trying to just basically speed up the process of getting coverage on these white shoulder pads by airbrushing, but I don't have a 0.2 millimeter needle, so my white paint is going everywhere on these shoulder pads.
But that's okay because you can touch it up on the black. Yeah,
I can touch it up. I don't know if in the end it'll end up saving me time or not. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay,
we'll see.
Let's do the legs first. The legs, you got to be a little careful. So I like to, when I do stuff like this, really hunch in good. The legs I don't like super care about if they look amazing. I want them to look good. I'm not trying to be sloppy or a bad painter, but the angles that you get when the Tzaangor's standing doesn't really support like good sight of the legs. But as you guys know, these get used on the channel, and that means that Adrian takes all kinds of close-up shots and stuff of them. So they will be visible. And, you know, I don't like a video that might get seen by 70,000 people to have some, you know, bad-looking Tzaangor legs. The Tzaangor wouldn't like that, right? Okay, here is the Tzaangor's body. This is where things get a little fun because we're going to do a little Zen and Thong here. Line up the Tzaangor here. And one of the cool things I always talk about with like whites and light colors like this is people say, you know, if you use such a light color, then what are you going to highlight with? Well, there's two ways we're going to highlight this. But both ways we highlight certain areas, just use this color, more of this color. Yeah. So, because remember, we're putting something over top of black. So first, there it is, nice and dry, looks okay. I'm gonna pick out a few spots and add a little bit more, especially the top of his head. And we'll do his shoulders. Okay, I'm gonna make sure I get the hands. The gold parts of the weapon have been painted and are finished, but the handles have not. And of course, once again, by design, but really easy to do by design because of the way the model is built. So there we go. Now I said there's a second way we're gonna highlight this that we are gonna get to pretty quickly here, and that when we come back to the skin. And that second way is we're gonna actually use a dry brush once again of this color over top of it just a little bit, and you're gonna see it's gonna let things poke out even more, like some of the raised areas. So there's our Tzaangor skin airbrushed. And am I done with airbrushing today? that might be it for my airbrushing. Oh no, we have one more thing to airbrush. Okay, while I've got, while that's, that is dry already. But let's finish the horns because we were giving the paint a second to dry. Mm-hmm. You will notice, by the way, if you are trying to get things done quick, I see Broken Chef is in chat. I know he's commission painting, and he probably knows this trick already. If you are doing things in sub-assembly and things sometimes need to dry because you're using washes or something like that, obviously it's nice to be able to like move to something else. Yeah. Also nice to be able to take a break though. So, you know, you can pace things out one way or the other.
I'm realizing that the proper order for this guy was actually to do the shoulder pad white first, and then to mask it with some of the putty, and then to paint the blue second. So that's my lesson that I'm learning here.
But that's good to learn, right? Because you're gonna have to paint 1 million of these guys.
1 million Bladeguard?
Well,
yes, that's my new Black Tzemplars.
I mean 1 million Space Marines, right?
1 million Space Marines, yeah.
Maybe not 1 million, but what, 50, 60 at some point?
Yeah. Went to a tournament, not this past weekend, but the weekend before. Was it this past week? My gosh, time is so weird. No, it was not this past weekend.
Weekend before, yeah.
0-3. Went 0-3 with Tao. It was bad. Bad day for me. But I won the door prize, which was a Space Marine box.
Oh, really?
So I've got.
Oh, that's so fun.
I've got a Space Marine box at home.
I don't think you told me that. That's very
yeah.
funny. Okay, let me show you guys. Second to last step on the horns. We are off dry brushing, but look at these. I love the way these look. Excuse me, we're off airbrushing and we're to dry brushing, and we're gonna dry brush Ubshanti Bone. So once again, same kind of process of dry brushing a color that was already present on the horn back onto the horn, just to pick out some details, hit some raised areas. You see how they kind of helps it come to life, builds contrast between the darker areas. Okay, we'll get the back. Not quite as worried about the back here, but why not? And we've got some couple pairs of twist bray horns.
Is it like the more twisty your horns, the more like leadership role you have in the tribe?
These horns aren't that twisty, they're just bigger. Okay, last step here, real quick, before we cut away. Ooh, where did I put it? Where did I, Brett, did you see
Melody,
that?
I was not bottom table, I was second to the bottom table. I had a lot of points for having 0 wins.
That's a bummer. And cool also. Brett, have you seen the gloss, the high gloss?
There's some airbrush, you mean, or there's some gloss medium in that blue box.
Okay, maybe I'll use that. Is it the Vallejo stuff?
It is.
Cool.
Yeah, my first game was against the guy who ultimately won the event, Jake Nelson. He's on Adrian's team. Really awesome player. And it was like 74 to 78 or something. It was like a really close game, but he obviously, I think he let me think it was close.
but maybe not.
Yeah, I think in his mind the entire time he was like, "Aw, this guy's so cute. He thinks he has a chance with his Tau against my white scars."
So
And he just let me like, the whole game he was just like playing me. That was in my head after the event. That's what I was like. Oh, that was nice of him that he let me think I had a chance.
Last step then, guys, on these is, on the horns, is to hit the top black area with a gloss varnish. I actually did find my own, which is, I'm using the Vallejo Mecha Varnish. And so I just hit only really the top. If I do varnish my whole model, but I actually ended up not. Could have, real quick, hit them with matte varnish and then done this. And there they are. The horns are done. And that's what they're going to look like. That gloss is going to pretty much stay like that. So you get this really cool look of like mostly the model is matte, the horns are matte, but as we get close to this top black part, it gets shiny. And again, not sure what that effect is called in real life. I probably should have looked that up, why that happens to horns. Maybe some of you guys will look it up at this point. I probably will when I go home tonight. But there we go. So horns finished. And like I said, I knocked out pretty much 20 some, well, there's a lot of these guys. There's 30 that I'm painting. And I knocked out all the horns pretty much in one go, except for these two.
Yeah, the horns look really fun. That gradient looks awesome. Very satisfying to paint.
Horns are super after doing my Beast Claw Raiders. And I kind of worked a little bit harder on these because I learned a few things from my Beast Claw Raider horns. I'm not going to go back and redo them, but I'll be honest, I kind of want to. But they're glued on at this point.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
There's no way they'd end up looking as good as you want them to.
I might be able to because they're kind of big, so I might be able to go in with the airbrush and like mask things a little carefully, and we'll see. So horns are done. Skin is done being airbrushed. I actually now think I might be done airbrushing. I'm not sure, I forget. We'll see. So I'm gonna put this guy down and gonna move on to armor details. This is now, wow, we're like keeping pace with each other in the same steps. Kind of cool. So the Tzaangors gold armor has a lot of details in it, but I will say this. If you look at some of the Tzaangors that Games Workshop has painted, and honestly, if you look at pretty cool Tzaangors on Instagram, you'll notice that if you go into their armor and you paint everything, all these different colors, and try to get into all the trim and do stuff with it, one, it's very challenging. Two, I do believe personally it does not look great. It kind of becomes a little kaleidoscopic. And you get just this insane montage, not hodgepodge is a better word, of color. So if we want to zoom in here for a sec, I'll show you guys what's going on the Tzaangors armor. You can see there's a lot of stuff. I'll use a brush to point out some things. So what we are going to paint here by hand is we're going to paint the cloth, of course. My Tzaangors have purple cloth. There's the purple cloth. And they have green gems that we're also going to have to paint. Some of the stuff on the Tzaangors armor, but mostly just the sword. They have an extra little sword here, sidearm. That's going to be silver. And that's it. You can see the rest of it really gets picked up by the gold dry brush that we did. I will show a couple other examples of some armor I did here. One sec. Let me grab one of my Tzaangor Enlightened. For these guys, I did want to be a little more involved with the armor. And Brett, if we can just zoom down, I'll show the Tzaangor Enlightened armor. So the Tzaangor Enlightened armor has these green panels. This is sort of like the Mardi Gras thing I was talking about, where I did.
Yeah, you mentioned Mardi Gras. I had no idea that Mardi Gras was green and gold.
Green, gold, and purple.
Did not know that.
Yeah, those are the Mardi Gras colors. I mean, I lived in Louisiana for a few years, so you just see it everywhere.
Yeah.
So you've got the gold, you've got the purple, and you've got the green. And this Tzaangor armor is a little busy. He's also got the feathers. I'm kind of into it, but I will just say that it ends up getting a little busy if you try to go in and do all the colors that you possibly can do, which honestly is good news for you guys because it means that this will be easier and quicker. Here's another Enlightened. Again, you can see he's got this is another Turbodor color called Seafood, and you can see he's got some of that on him. So not all my Tzaangors actually have green on them, believe it or not. We have this guy. In fact, the guy we're doing here today won't have any of the seafood color green on him. Okay, so once again, we've got just a little bit of silver to do on them. We've got the purple to do on them, from the cloth, and then we've got. Let me see. Is this Tzaangor? Yes, he does have a gem, at least one spot. Ooh, three gems, 3 tiny gems. And I think the gems are big. Like I don't know if you guys notice here, but that is the green on any of the Tzaangors who don't have green on their armor. That is where the green comes from to give it kind of like the Mardi Gras trifecta.
Right. Gems are a great opportunity to add an accent color.
Like add a little splash of color.
Yep.
So and look, here's the thing about Mardi Gras and Tzaangors. If there's one 40K unit that's just like very much looks like they're going to participate in Mardi Gras,
yeah,
it's Tzaangors. Nothing looks more ready for Mardi Gras than
and they've got their instruments, they've got their horns, they're all dressed up, they got their bling.
They love violence and murder, which is not a Mardi Gras thing.
Do they love drinking and dancing?
I don't know. They're like, they have like some interesting background. They're actually, people don't realize this, they're actually mostly people, humans.
Do they love overindulging but before a period of fasting?
Maybe in seeking knowledge and also murdering things. Oh. They have like this weird background that almost is like a little corn-like, where they're like really into, they're really into like violence as well as like a means to accomplish their goals. Kind of interesting. Okay, I do have a little bit of hand painting to do with the gold, which is right here, with pucker, which means I'll also have to hit this with the purple as well. But you can see the tip of the sword just looks so much better if you sandwich it. You go gold, then the silver part here, and then this gold cap part on their sidearm ceremonial sword thing. I think it just looks a lot better than leaving it silver. So I am going to go ahead and do that. And you can see the Turbo Dork paint here, very thin layers. This I think is my thinned bottle. Let me pull my other bottle. Oh wait, sorry, that's not in your guys' view. Let me show you. So I think that's the thinned bottle right there. And then yes, the thick bottle has a little red on the cap. It barely even comes out. It's a little harder to get to come out, but there it is. You probably can't make a big difference visually at home. There's the thicker one. wash my brush and dry it off. This one I've added thinner too. You can, yeah, there you go. You can see.
So
So
we talked about before. Did you airbrush that, add thinner, and then pour it back into the bottle, and now the whole bottle's thinned?
no, I have one bottle with a little red cap.
Yeah.
That's for hand painting, and I have one bottle that I've added a bunch of thinner to, and that is for airbrushing.
Gotcha.
So I will use some of this thicker hand brush one to get another coat on here.
And while you're doing that, I am brush painting my deck tan over the shoulder pads that I pre-airbrushed. I just basically like use the airbrush to do the first like 7 coats, and then I'm just gonna brush paint the 8th coat.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Because the coverage through the airbrush is so much better. Because I want it to be opaque. I don't really want a gradient. I'm not looking for any of those kinds of things with the airbrush. I literally is just looking for expediting the process of achieving coverage.
So while my gold there is drying for just a second, I am applying Phoenician Purple. This is the base coat of color that I'm going to apply to the cloth that the Tzaangors have on their armor. And then, let me make sure I get the back. The back's important to get. And again, we're doing this trick that I like, which is that we're using an airbrush paint as a brush paint, and it's already thinned. And one of the things I also like about it is that with this being white underneath here, it's going to peek through and give natural highlights already. Since the paint is ever so slightly transparent, the raised areas will peek through a little bit better and give kind of a natural highlight. You can actually already see that starting to happen as the paint dries on the back here. Okay, and then here's the one on the front. This is where I do have to have some careful brush work. I really do this thing, I don't know, I wear contacts, but I can do this thing if I take my time where I can stop for a second and really have let my eyes refocus. You can all do that. That's not like I said I can do this thing. We can all do that. So if you're doing this, make sure you give it a second to kind of let your eyes make sure you're getting everything.
That's because we're old, Zach. We have to do that.
Really? Is that what's going on?
That's what happens, yeah.
But I feel like it's great because I see things one way, and then I can take a second and totally
see them a different way.
Switch my
Oh, I like it. It's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, and people are asking, yeah, that bright, super bright yellow is what the yellow looks like before you wash it with purple. The little cap on his sword right there. Okay, I'm gonna show off something I haven't used on the stream before. And it is, I think it's an AK product. Let's see. Yeah, it's called Transparator. Transparator. Make your paints transparent.
What?
AK.
It's like Instaglaze?
Oh, it's MIG, not AK.
Let me see. Wow, Transparator.
Yeah. So what this does, the best way to kind of describe this as an analogy, which is often helpful, is that it's almost like getting the layered airbrush effect of like repeatedly using a white or a light color.
Yeah.
But it kind of turns that and makes you able to do that on brushwork. And the better way I would describe it is it thins your paints without making them runny at all.
So there's this product called just Medium, like Paint Medium, which is the base material of a paint before you add any pigments to it. So like a paint is not pigment plus water, it's like pigment plus this other thing, the acrylic medium. And so my guess is that whatever's in that bottle, it's just acrylic medium, maybe slightly diluted.
There's something different about it because I've used acrylic medium, and this just plays a little differently on the brush.
Oh, okay.
And, like I said, I like using it to like kind of repeatedly add layers.
Yeah.
And that's how I like to do cloth. Like Tzaangors, the robes that they kind of have hanging down.
Hey, Zach, let me ask you a question. We talked the other day as you were working on your first set of these about contrast paints.
Oh yeah.
And I noticed you're not using any contrast paints. Can you talk about your experience sort of testing out the contrast paints and like why you ultimately decided not to use them?
I actually will use a contrast paint.
You will? Okay,
yeah.
great.
I did find a use for the contrast paint that I really like it for a lot. But I've seen a lot of people use them, and I've not liked a lot of the results I've seen with them.
Yeah.
I do know that there'll be like these, like I follow a lot of Instagram painters, and these guys are super strong painters. And I'll see one of them post something up, and it's like really cool. And then I like click on his or her profile, and I'm like, everything they did without contrast paints looks way better. Like, yeah, that looks very cool. Like it helps the painter take their current level and just like level down a little bit. And so I'm always kind of like looking at contrast paint, just like, oh my gosh. But what I did notice is there are a few paints like the oxide I love to to make copper verdigris.
Verdigris.
On these guys, I'm also using the Nighthawk Bloom. I'll show you that. And what I kind of found out was that the contrasts are sort of similar to that. I think Adrian was the one that was like, Nighthawk Bloom is just a contrast paint, basically. That's sold as a technical paint. So I picked a contrast paint up, and I found out like a really cool use for it, and we'll use it on these Tzaangors.
We'll get to it in a little bit. Okay,
yeah,
good.
as a matter of fact. In fact, this paint, while this purple dries a little bit, the Phoenician Purple, maybe I could do that on this guy, actually. Let's see. The skin, I have my guide here. The Tzaangors are a lot of steps. I actually wrote out a guide for myself.
Which is never a bad idea.
Never a bad idea. Oh, let's do the Nighthawk Bloom. That's actually kind of next on the step here. So Nighthawk Bloom is what Citadel Paint calls a technical, but again, if you've used contrast, I think you guys will probably find it's pretty similar, although it's kind of milky. In fact, honestly, it's what it really reminds me of is the oxide paint.
Yep.
It's exactly like it. It's just like a different color. So I put it on the beaks of my Tzaangors, and I use a couple layers. This kind of just helps give them like a little bit of color on part of their body. And one cool thing about this paint is when you put it on, you're like, oh my God, this looks like crap. And then you like set the model aside and it dries, and it dries so beautifully. It really like falls into cracks in some places, but just gives like this really like almost like gradient pool. That P-U-L-L, like pulling the pigment into one direction. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I really like it. So this Tzaangor's got his little darker blue beak. On some of these guys, I've done more than one coat of this, but I think I got it right here, and only I'm gonna need the one coat. So there is his beak, his little beak, and it'll dry, and you guys will see. Let me see if I have all of these Tzaangors I have right here. Yeah, there you go. It ends up being like a really subtle, almost like ombre effect that it kind of creates on its own.
Yep.
And all these Tzaangors have the mask on, but there we go. So while that's happening, let's go back and start working on the cloth. Okay, so we'll use the Transparator. Now, for this paint, you can use an airbrush paint, like Genestealer Purple. For whatever reason, I somehow acquired this Army Painter paint. I think I was in an event, and somebody put this in like a bag, kind of like what happened to you, Brett, with the Turbo Dork. So this is Oozing Purple by Army Painter, and the reason I'm going to use this today instead of an airbrush paint or Genestealer Purple is, one, because I have it and I kind of just want to use it, and two, it is a little thicker, and for that reason I kind of like the way it interacts with this this MIG Transparator. So I'm going to, let's see, earlier when I did this, I did use the wet palette, so Brett, I'm going to borrow the wet palette a little bit here.
Yep.
Get some of this on there. I think you could, I've also used this without a wet palette, by the way, guys, and had good results as well. And mix it in here.
Just getting rid of some of the tools we're not using anymore.
Okay.
Do you want any acrylic retarder for your?
No, I don't even know what that would do. Okay.
Out of my dropper bottles? You don't like my dropper bottles.
I don't. Well, no, I do, but I just don't use.
You don't use any of that
things.
nonsense. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Can we check the top zoom and see if my
Sure.
my light's in the way here? I need. I do need the light to do this a little bit. Okay. So the transparator, whatever you want to call it, is on, and I'm going to start doing the cloth now. And the way I'm going to do the cloth, you pull away, is I'm going to start up where there's ridges, and I'm going to kind of just work my way down. The paint is going on very thin because of this stuff, which is what I want. And I'm doing that thing where the recesses are dark because I'm not going down there with the lighter color paint. Basically.
Like sort of highlighting,
Yeah.
edge highlighting, but not really.
Yeah. Okay, now the front, the front's still a little wet, but actually that's okay because I don't want to go down there anyway. And I'm going to do a few coats of this. And just like I was doing earlier with the airbrush wash, with the airbrush, the white color, every place where I go a second coat, I'm basically bringing up the brightness. Because what I'm doing is using a really thin color paint here, a really transparent paint, and just adding more and more layers. In other words, I'm depositing more and more little chunks of pigment every place where I go over with this.
Yeah, that's like a really good sort of general technique, is paint a thing, tint it with some kind of wash, and then go back over it, dry brush or highlight with the original color, and to just sort of emphasize those raised edges.
Exactly.
You can apply that technique to models, to terrain, to different parts of different models. It's a good general technique.
Can we get a zoom?
Sure.
Okay, so there we go. Now, if this robe was really big, it was like a cape, and I'll actually pull out my Tzaangors Shaman that I'm working on and show you him here in a second. You could also then, what like hardcore blending stuff that you can do is you can start to add little tiny amounts of white into what you have in your wet palette. So I'm going to yank this away from Brett real quick. I could start to basically add little amounts of white into this and then pull it up and just like keep going with the transparator each time. And again, it'd be a very transparent paint, and it would be also bringing it up that way because, of course, one way, like I said, to bring it up is to just keep putting thin layers of this lighter paint over top of the darker paint underneath. But to even go even further than that, obviously, getting a little bit of white into the mix is also going to do that. I really recommend this product. I love it. Kat turned me onto this from our local. She's a painter around here and works at manages the Game Castle stores around here. So she's always saying, hey, you should use this. Hey, you should use that, and selling me stuff. But I see her sitting there painting and it looks good. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm sold.
She clearly knows what she's talking about.
She knows what she's talking about. That's the best kind of salesman, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Chat's talking about contrast paints. I like contrast paints for things with skin. I feel like if you see things like Kroot, like Tzaangors, I think the best application is Tyranids. Poxwalkers were suggested in chat. I think Nurgle in general is like a perfect application for contrast paint. Things that are meant to be just like a little bit sloppy and gross. Mm-hmm. I think Tyranids, Kroot, Poxwalkers are perfect for that product line. I don't love it as much for hard surfaces.
Here's my sorry, Brett, real quick. So here's the Tzaangors Shaman. And on him, I did end up like doing a little bit of white on his cloth. So you can see that I just put more, honestly, like a little more blending process into the Shaman than I am into a standard rank and file guy. The Enlightened are kind of somewhere in the middle. They have more cloth, but not quite as much as the Shaman. So, you know, they're you can kind of see the differences.
Is the Shaman, so the Shaman is like the sergeant of the unit?
No, the
he's
Shaman,
like a character.
He's
right?
like a, in Brett speak, he's like a cadre fireblade.
He's an HQ choice?
He's actually an elite in the
choice?
army.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's like a crew shaper.
Yeah, that's probably actually a way better. He's better than a crew shaper, shocker.
He's not 25 points?
Oh no, he's
pricey.
pricey,
Oh, okay.
and he's got 4-up armor, he's got a 5-up invuln, and he flies around on a disc. He's a psyker.
Oh, that seems pretty good. Crew shapers wish they had discs to fly around on.
Yeah, and the Enlightened are like somewhere in the middle. I just think that the Enlightened is like the coolest thing ever. Just like that name, like it's so terrifying. I love like the terrifying nature of Tzeentch and how they kind of like use intelligence and concepts like that to invoke terror, right? Like the unit's called Enlightened. Like that's normally a good thing, but here's this like horrible beast monster that just wants to stab you.
Why do they want to stab you?
Because
if they're so enlightened.
Because that's what they realize has to be done.
That's the inevitability of it all.
You just got to get hit. You just got to get stabbed. Tzeentch is like, hey,
I don't get it.
Hey, look,
I'm confused.
there's no way around it. He's got to get
Maybe
stabbed.
that's because I'm not enlightened. That's why I do it.
Yeah, if you're enlightened, you know that sometimes you just need to get stabbed. Apparently, and it's the Warhammer 40K universe, right? So, of course. Okay, so there's the cloth. It's drying a little bit. Once it dries a little more, maybe on stream or maybe after, I might. The paint is still on the wet palette, so I might do a little bit more, especially after I can like do this and not have my whole head in the view for you guys, because I really do like ideally to paint this. I'm like really hunched in and like looking very closely. Or I have this guy like right there like that, which kind of isn't the best camera view, but I think it's pretty much where I want it. So I'll let that dry a little bit. Okay, gems real quick. You guys have seen me do a lot of gems recently, but these ones are gonna be quick, and they really make the armor like just come to life again. Like, so I don't. Oh, what am I doing? That's not my first step on gems. I'm going to start it with the silver. As always, we start with black on gems. So true black, Abaddon black, if it's Citadel. A lot of other companies actually call their true black instead of Abaddon black.
Instead of black is black.
Yeah.
Instead of just black.
So he's got a gem. Gonna figure out a way that, okay, right here in kind of like the form of an eye. Messed up a little bit, so.
Need a fixer?
Gonna use an eraser, yeah. Okay. I think my paint is just.
Lean back a little bit.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know that we have the ability to capture me doing this correctly on camera. Let's see. There we go, okay.
They're tiny gems.
Yeah. This one in particular is just a weird shape also. So, okay, there's that one. And then the other two are on his back, on his little sidearm.
Yeah. How many of these little gems are there on this guy?
This guy has 3. Some have 2, some have 1. I think 3 is the most actually. And they're little tiny ones, so we're not going to do every single possible step on the gem, which is black, dark silver, light silver, white. On these gems, we're just going to do the first 2 steps. So we're just going to do black, and then dark silver, and then we're going to use the GW, the Citadel Technical Paint Waystone Green.
Got it. Well, while you're doing that, shall we do? When do you want to do?
Do some fan stuff?
Fan stuff.
Let's do some fan stuff, yeah.
Okay. Or do you want to finish the gem? How about you finish those gems first?
Okay, yeah, they're almost
done. And then we'll
done.
do fan stuff? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So there we go, just a little bit you can see. Now, when we did gems in the past on our Eldar terrain, we then did, after doing black and silver, we then did a lighter silver, Runefang Steel. And then after that, we hit the bottom right with white, like a little white spot. And gems need to be a little bit bigger than this guy, I think, to justify all those steps. It's just not going to work. Well, let me put it this way. I think it could work, but you're going to get very diminishing returns on such a tiny gem. There's going to be a lot going on in a very tiny space.
Right.
So for these guys, we're skipping those of the 5 steps for gems: black, dark silver, light silver, white, then the color, the technical paint. We're skipping the light silver and the white. And we're just doing the black and the darker silver.
I think that's a good call.
Yeah.
It's a tiny gem on a, 8-point model or something?
It looked worse.
Yeah.
I tried.
It looked worse.
It looked worse. And like, to some extent, it's a little challenging to even get like all of it there, all 5 of the steps to like show up there. So, totally not worth it.
You want me to zoom in on you, or you're leaning forward?
I'm leaning forward.
Okay, we'll not do that then.
We'll have to sort this out. We've done so much terrain where I never need to like lean forward and focus.
Yeah.
And
we can fuss with the camera placement a little
yeah,
bit.
even models we haven't done. You know, we did the Simon Hornet, but that's big. Like, there's never any place where I had to do this. So this is kind of interesting. We're learning this here. Should we do some fan stuff?
Sure. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
Okay. Now wait. Before we do,
Okay.
I should say that I kept it less stuff than normal this time.
Right.
Normal means it's been increasing. I think we're up to like 14, 15, 16 things last time. So I do apologize if you're like, oh, my stuff's not in there. There's also a little bit of a condition I decided to impose on today's, which is that today it's all Thousand Sun stuff, mostly. There's one kind of caveat to that, there's one big exception, right? In more than one way that we want to show off here as well. But for now, the basic fan stuff, meaning not that it's not awesome, but our normal fan segment, all Thousand Suns
All
themed.
Thousand Suns.
We've got a couple Magnuses here. That's actually Broken Chef right there. There's his Magnus.
That
He's
looks
got his miniature count. I love that. This Ahriman was sick. And by the way, hop in the Discord and check these out, because most of these people are posting multiple versions of their model.
That's crazy. Oh yeah, it's from different angles.
From different angles, yeah. These are Tzaangors. Tzaangor Enlightened. There
Right,
they
on
are,
the disc, I can tell.
on their discs, which I love. Here's another Magnus. This guy looks
That's
great.
good,
I love the
yeah.
blue color that they did on the wings.
The red, white. I mean, red, white, and blue go together, but then the gold, addition of the gold.
Okay, now these guys are super cool. He did like these ghost.
Are these occult terminators?
They're scarab occult, and he did them. He calls them like ghost scarab occult, and he did them so that they look like it will come back around.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of wondering what they used. If they used Nighthawk Bloom, if they used Hexfire, but they used. You can kind of tell. One, first of all, it looks cool, and what's also great about that is that I'm imagining that process was easy.
Oh yeah.
Right. Whenever I have sitting waiting for me to get to in the next few months at some point, I have the ghosts from Lord of the Rings for some Lord of the Rings miniatures I have, and there are all kinds of cool ways to paint those guys, but many of them are just fast.
Right.
Like you just airbrush a couple colors. Nighthawk too.
Ghosts, yeah. Yeah, just their shades and transitions. Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, so there are those occult
There they are,
terminators again. Yeah.
Ghastly. I love it.
Ghastly ghosts. Oh yeah, that's great.
Now, while I was looking
Who's
through,
this guy? Is that Armon also?
that's an
Just a
exalted
sorcerer?
sorcerer.
Yeah,
Just a
okay.
casual exalted sorcerer. Yeah, cool stuff. And thanks as always, guys. Please keep sending stuff. keep posting stuff. I mean, you don't have to explicitly send it to us. Just post it in the Titans Discord, and we'll poach it. But we do love names on things.
Yeah, please do put your name.
The other thing that makes me often want to put something up is if it's cropped decently.
Oh yeah.
So
with good lighting on the photo, they're staged a little bit.
That's good too. I can be like, not everyone has time for that, but just like there was something last week that we did with some terrain, and we put it up, but I had to go in and like crop the picture, and I can't always do that when I'm like setting up and getting ready for the show in other ways. So if you can kind of like zoom in and not have like your beer off to the side or like your computer mouse and stuff like all over, and it's just a size thing.
That's what the kids do these days, though. They like have their computer keyboards with all the lighting and in the background.
Yeah.
Don't you know, Tzach? Closed laptops make the perfect stage backdrop for a. Okay, we have one exception to the.
Yeah, let's talk about this a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So while I was
put it up on the screen. No, you want to talk first?
No, let's talk about what it is. So while I was searching through, and if you guys are on the Discord, you no doubt saw this in the criticisms, which sounds harsh, but there's a section called Hobby Criticisms in the Titans Discord, and it's basically like, hey, what do you think of this, right?
Yeah.
So I saw this what is it? It's a
Leviathan.
Leviathan tank.
There's a Leviathan tank. You ready?
Yeah, the user's name is
Look at that thing.
Eric the Red, but his Instagram is Chemical Sunsets, and his real name is Eric. And I reached out to him, and I was like, "Whoa, what is going on here? This thing is amazing. Look at this thing. It is crazy."
So this is a unit that was first, like, GW produced a model of this in Epic. So it's like the game where it's a 6mm game instead of a 28mm game. And so the model was like, several inches in size, 2.5 inches in size, something like that. And Chemical Sunsets made a 40K scale version of this, which is amazing. That's
so he
so
wanted
incredible.
to be So when I reached out to him, he did say that somebody else built this. And he painted it. So both awesome work by both.
Yeah, for sure.
And he actually I have what he sent me. I'd like to read through it so you guys kind of see what he did. Okay, it says the tank itself was a project built by a great customer of mine named Chris Stover. Years ago, he put it together from a board and kits, from foam board and kits, and you can tell. And I can actually, lots of these kits are. So there's the Shrine of the Aquila on the front, which is a kit they don't make anymore. This used to be called like the Cities of Death line, I think they called it. But these are old terrain kits. I have a board using these kits. We call it the Mossy board. It's the board that guys sometimes use as the cobblestone mat. And I actually have this Shrine of the Aquila that I need to it's painted for that board. It just got damaged. I need to fix it up. But it's a great kit. So back to what Eric says. He said he asked this guy, Chris, asked Eric to paint it up. He said, I took it apart carefully, which any painter is like, yeah. Like if that was handed to me, I'd be like, we can do this in pieces.
Yeah.
For paint and inserting the stained glass. And I love how he did the stained glass.
The stained glass is amazing.
The stained glass, when you hear how he did it, you're going to go, oh. So he didn't like go in and paint that by hand, and no, he didn't. But that's what makes it even better. Like again, look at the end result. It's to me nonetheless impressive. So here's how he did it. He says he pulled some cool images off Google and sized them on Procreate and printed them on old school 90s overhead projector plastic sheets. He had them printed out at
That's
FedEx Kinko's, which if you're not in the U.S., it's like a little bit of a what do you call that? Like a
It's like a print and ship kind of store.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now the marbling on the sides here, if you can see it, he says the marbling on the sides was done with a base white, then airbrushed over with fried baby wipes. I don't know. why I use the word fried. I don't know.
I think it's dried, probably a typo.
I like to imagine it's not a typo, but yeah, let's say dried.
Dried baby wipes.
Dried baby wipes. We've chatted about that before, and I'd like to. I should do some marble on the stream at some point.
Yeah, that's a popular way of doing marbling effects.
Yeah. And that's it. He says he's a video game environment artist, and he's picked up hobbying a month before COVID, and this has been 40K has been a passion of his. So
my favorite part is the front. It just looks like there's a sunset happening off in the distance that's like reflecting on the side of on the front surface of the thing.
And this is
so great.
Yeah, and this is, we were talking about this. This is and both equally
That
impressive.
picture right there.
This one. This is his paint job. This is also, I think, his lighting. But that's
Yeah, it's hard to tell how much of that is actual lighting and how much of it is the paint job.
Right.
But I think that's
what makes it.
what makes the paint job amazing.
Exactly.
My
yes.
guess is that it's actually the paint job, but you can't actually tell. You're not 100%
Well,
sure.
well, it's like a little bit of both, right? But then, like, I don't know, like I don't know what.
Does it matter really? In the
No, it
picture,
doesn't matter.
doesn't.
I don't know how. I don't know what's what really, right? So, good job. Super awesome, Eric. That was very cool to find. I do check the hobby stream somewhat regularly, but I have been very busy this week painting up a lot of Tzaangors. And
Painting Tzaangors.
hopped in today to see that. I was like, whoa, wow, this is crazy. Okay, Brett, if we can zoom in, I'll show.
Yeah, where you at, Tzach?
So back to the skin on this guy. I'm going to now, I said the last highlight step is that we're actually going to kind of quick dry brush the same color we last airbrushed over top of him. And this is to help set up a little bit of contrast. It also kind of goes over the Nighthawk Bloom a little bit and kind of makes the Nighthawk Bloom look not like it's like paint on his face, but rather like part of his skin. So we do that real quick here. And I'm actually, Brett, I don't know where you're at. I gotta say, I'm actually like, this might be one of our shorter evenings. I'm actually not that far from finished on this guy.
Oh, I'm nowhere near done.
Okay. So
Taking forever.
yeah, let me keep going here. So after this has been done, to kind of brighten him back up just a little bit, and also again, like it helps kind of put a little bit of highlight around the Nighthawk gloom, so that it's again doesn't just look like face paint or something. The next thing that we're going to do is a dry brush, and I'm going to use a Citadel layer paint, which you guys are probably almost shocked to hear because I almost never use them. This is Pink Horror. I had to scratch off where some paint had gone over top of the bottle. I can tell this is like a combination of my towel paint and my towel color and some metallics. So we're going to use this Pink Horror color to do the feathers. Let me show you this. And this is actually, I don't just do the feathers, I do all the Tzaangors have some kind of like appendages, head or something like that. And so, on their head, sorry, is what I'm trying to say. Some have like tentacles coming out the back of their head, others have feathers. It's just, classic Tzaanch. Classic Tzaanch madness. Just never know.
Are they beasts? Are they birds?
You never know what you're going to
know.
get, yeah. So the feather here, it was Super Reedy. It was Super Reedy's girlfriend, and she was painting feathers. I think the best way to paint feathers usually is
dry brushing, right?
Lots of different coats of dry brush.
Yeah, many layers.
Okay, so that happened fast. Look at that. And you can kind of get like natural ombre a little bit in there.
Yeah.
Happens kind of quick. Brett, I'll read the super chat.
Oh yeah,
Since
go for
you're
it.
since you're busy.
Heads down. I didn't even see it.
Yeah. Thanks, Magnus. The UWU. What Magnus is this these days? There's so many different.
What is
Magnuses.
UW is a thing, kid.
Oh my gosh. Did you guys see me? I just like fell into accidentally petting this Tzaangor. I didn't even realize I was doing it.
Can somebody in chat tell me what UWU stands for?
Considered painting my Tzaangors in the army of Anubis style from the 90s mummy movies. Ideas on how to handle the dark black skin. Wow, that is a super cool idea. Okay, something immediately jumps out to me. that you should try on a test model that I would be super into. Do black, like Abaddon black, then do a little bit of Corvus black, like highlighting, like Zenithal over the skin.
Yeah.
And then take Drakenhof Nightshade and go
Sorry,
over.
Zach. This is not helpful, chat.
It's a face. It's a face.
Chat, I was like, Chad, can you please tell me what UWU stands for? And you're all just
Typing
UWU.
It's a face. It's a face. It's a weak. An attempt to be cute. Okay.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So consider
I still don't get it.
back to my back to the Tzaangor. So sort of like we just did with the bone, where we put dark brown, where we put brown over black, and like you're gonna catch it a little bit. So super dark black base coat. You could even go over top of the primer. You could just prime it black, and then Corvus black, which is like the really super dark gray, and then Drakenhof Nightshade over top of that. After that, you might like what that looks like, especially if you airbrush the wash, because it'll go on way more evenly. There's another super chat up there. Now they're all talking about this. We're gonna lose that. Can you go up, Brett, real quick, so we don't lose it. So try that, Magnus, the face, to do like dark blue. Now the other thing you could do that might be kind of interesting as well after that is, I'm almost tempted to wonder what that would look like if it was glossed a little bit, like shiny. So like black, super dark gray, blue wash, and then shiny black. Now if you want it to
I like that idea.
have more layers of like highlight, you're gonna do black, super dark gray, then like a Mechanicus standard gray, like a medium neutral gray.
Yeah.
And then you can pick how many highlight layers you want to do. You could do black, dark gray, then you could do like a light gray or a little bit of white even if it was transparent, like the ones I like Minotaur, Skull White. But over top of all of it, you're going to do Drakenhof Nightshade. And if you're airbrushing Magnus, do it with an airbrush, because again, it's going to go on really smooth. You're not going to get that like washed last look, which I hate. You know, we talk about that. I don't usually like that unless it's like on fur or something.
Right.
So I think that would be one way to do it. Another way you could do it, this would be a little more challenging, would be to paint it like a sort of dark blue. You could do like a dark blue and then do Drakenhof Nightshade, let that get into the recesses. You could do that by hand. Then this is sort of what I did with my Beast Claw Raiders, but I did with white. So then after it's like completely finished and all the recesses are in and it's dry, you go over it, and what I would try doing is there's two ways you could do it. You could try it with non-oil, again with an airbrush to get a smooth look, over top of dark blues, and then build the blues up.
Yeah. What would you think about like a medium blue with a dark blue wash?
Well, right, that is what I'm saying, almost. Like build up the blue, then put a dark blue wash over it to go into the recesses. But then your last step, and you want to test this out. It's going to sound a little crazy. I would get like an Abaddon black air paint, like an air paint black. And I would maybe start watering it or thinning it to like 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 4-to-1.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is you're making, like, this sounds crazy, but you're kind of making like a transparent black.
A glaze, yeah.
A glaze, but not with any gloss to it.
Oh, I see.
And that's not quite a wash. And so you're then taking a really thinned black paint over top of like medium and even maybe bright blues. You could try that. My only concern is it might go in the recesses more than you want.
Like,
Test it.
What if you didn't worry about the gloss and then just hit it with a matte varnish when you're done?
Oh, that too. Yeah. Also that. That's super cool idea. Anubis idea, black and gold like that. It's gonna look super cool.
Yeah, it's gonna look great. Everyone's gonna hopefully know. Like, Tzaangors are the perfect thing to do like a mummy crossover.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely. So who's this? Is this from Caldorf?
Caldorf
Says, "Hey Titans, I always enjoyed getting some time to tune in to watch you guys paint some new models or project. Paint some new models of a project. Looking great. Bring some zen to my day. Well, awesome. Thank you. That's kind of the goal of the stream.
Yeah.
Is to hang out with peeps and paint and
Paint some stuff.
Paint. See what you guys. Hear what you guys are up
Hear
to.
what you guys are up to. Share some things, some ideas, some what's going on in your life.
Okay. Can I show? Can I show a wacky part I'm excited about?
Yeah, I want to catch up on all this ooh chat.
Yeah.
U equals closed eyes, W a mouth. Got it. I see it now. I get it.
You get it? Okay, here's the part I'm really excited about. I just did Pink Horror, and I just dry brushed it over like his feather quill. I'll show you guys also. Oh, this is a feathered dude too. Do I have a? Let me grab one that is a tentacle-headed dude, and show how the effect works there on him. Yeah. Okay. So this guy, if we do a zoom down, I'll show.
Okay.
Here's the one we're working on. Here's his feathers. And here's the tentacled one. Now you guys might be able to see this little incandescence on the tentacles. And we're gonna have that on the feathers too. And the way we're gonna do that is with this color right here, which we used I think last week or maybe a couple weeks ago on some of the Alderi terrain board that we're making. This is a turbidor color called Bubblegum Crisis. And we came up with that, it was named after an anime. I actually correctly got that right, I was a little surprised.
See, I thought it was like if I swallowed my bubblegum, it would be a crisis. So I'm having a crisis that involves bubblegum.
Yeah, that sounds like a Brett dad joke right there.
Well, is it like deck? Is it a tan that you get while you're on your deck, or is it a tan color?
That was a Tzach Brett dad joke.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bubblegum Crisis is kind of like, it's a color shift. I know it is a color shift. I actually think of it not quite as a color shift. I think of it more as a pink that has like gold flecks in it. And that is perfect for our Tzaangor because our Tzaangor is got some pink going on in his life, and he's got some gold in the form of his armor. So when we just dry brush this, and I love using turbo dork this way, when we just dry brush this over the feather, it just picks it up like ever so slightly.
Yeah.
And starts to get like this shimmer to it.
After we did our trees episode last week, the idea of using turbo dork not necessarily as like a main color on a model, but as a highlight or a dry brush is like I never really sort of grasped the sort of point of color shift paints. Like we've talked about before, if you paint the whole model in a color shift paint, it's hard to sort of showcase other techniques.
Yeah.
But
it takes over.
This application right here, using it as a dry brush or an edge highlight like we did on the trees last week, is super compelling to me. I love this idea.
So there you guys go. I think you can hopefully see it okay. He's got like a little gold sheen on his feathers. And he is ready for Mardi Gras. I mean, he's not finished yet, but the gold sheen is like, hey, ready for Mardi Gras. Totally ready for Mardi Gras right there. Okay, so there's dry brush, the Pink Horror, and the Bubblegum Crisis. Next, here's the fun part. Okay, we got a little bit of brush work to do. With Pink Horror, I'm going to put a little bit on a wet palette. And I'm going to paint the spines that they have on them. Brett, can we check? Should we check in with you, or did I just put you on the spot?
I mean, we can. I feel like I'm not making anywhere near the progress you are.
Well, that's because you don't paint 10 Tzaangors a day for the past week.
You're right. I have not done this 10 times in the last week. So here we're at. I did my blue airbrushing initially. I've done white as the color for the shoulder pads and the robe, and also the quill on the chest. This shield here, I'm actually not in love with it as white, so I think I'm going to go back over that, either as blue or metallic. And I've just started doing the metallic here on the shield and on the iconography on his backpack. So that's where we're at. I'm working on. I did sort of white accent color first, and then now I'm working on the silver.
He's looking good.
And then I think the last step will be some brown. He's got some leather on him. He's got holster for his pistol. I don't know if that should be leather or not. Maybe red. I think I'll do that red. You need some red somewhere.
Black Templar, yeah.
But yeah.
Sorry, I have a brush in my mouth. It's probably not super easy to understand me. Okay, let me show what I'm doing, if we can. I am picking out the spines. You can see I just did an eraser with a wet Q-tip. So when you do the spines on something like this, a good technique, first, he's got a few of these little things all over him. And there's actually, I want from the wet palette. There's a couple ways to kind of do it. One, one of the reasons I kind of thought it was a good time to check in on Brett is because this is another thing where, if I'm honest, I really do want to like do that and get over and do these. But kind of a quicker, easier way than like actually like following the line like this is to try to hit him with the side of your brush. Now the danger there,
just lean back just a little bit.
The danger by doing the side of your brush is almost like that a little bit. Is if you miss, you're gonna totally mess it up. But that's okay. That's why I just use an eraser. So you can kind of hit with the side of your brush like this. Let me find one. Here's one over here. Nope. Did I get them all? Here's one back here. Okay, so the side of your brush, you just kind of picking it out like that. There you go. So you can do the side of your brush technique as well. I usually find I do both. These guys. Well, let me rephrase that. When I'm doing the Tzaangors, which is something I've only been doing recently, as in like the past week, some I find are better to actually like put the brush through like that, and then some I found were better to just hit with the side of the brush this way.
Yeah.
Okay, now, here we go. Brett was asking, and here it is, the contrast paint. So I'm going to use the contrast paint now.
The moment of truth.
Yeah, I'm going to use the contrast paint on every spot where there was a spine. And it's going to give the spine some depth. In fact, here you go. You can look. Here's a Tzaangor body, torso that has not had. And here's the pink. Let me find out. There's the Enlightened. Maybe you can see. It almost kind of like helps them glow a little bit. But rather than show you on two different models, let's do a spine. And then gives it a little depth there. I don't know. That might be tough to see on the camera, but let me keep going and you guys can see if you can spot a difference. But I really found a kind of a cool use for the contrast paints this way, which is, again, not surprisingly, like it's almost what Brett was saying about Turbo Dork. Like I wasn't always thrilled with when I saw people like do something with all contrast.
Do an entire model, yeah.
Nor was I, and I agree, like frequently Turbo Dork and contrast paints, I feel like they basically shut down other techniques. They're like, hey, here's what you do. You paint the whole thing with contrast paint. But now I can see like spot application of it, kind of interesting. I sort of like it as like it's almost like well, really what it is, it's not like I'm about to say, it's almost like this, like I'm saying something interesting. But what it really is it's a thick wash that clings the area. And that's exactly what you want with something like this. He's got these little bumps. I'm calling them spines, but they're really not spines. They're like weird little skin bumps on him. And what the contrast paint does is it like clings to it. So it doesn't go running all over the rest of his skin.
It doesn't run all over the rest of the model, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a thick, gloopy wash.
Yeah. Okay, so there's one thing that I missed on this guy that I'm going to knock out real quick because it's super easy and it's super quick. And it's not that hard to do, which is I'm gonna paint some the handle of his weapon, real quick brushwork here, nice and easy, with lead belcher, which is like a dark silver color, and also his bracers. I chose to leave the bracers silver, but we are gonna also, to give them depth, we're gonna do a little bit of non-oil as well.
No, everything gets non-oil.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice on silver and metals. Gold sometimes, like we were talking about earlier, but especially silvers, it just gives them a lot of depth that they don't otherwise have.
Just notice this guy has a belt. Space Marine has a belt with a buckle. He's got all these pouches on his back too. So like, what does he have in these pouches? What does a Bladeguard need?
I don't know. He's a Space Marine, so probably skulls. Something completely pointless.
Yes. Excellent.
Okay, so weapon handle, and then I just need to also get paint on the bracers real quick. These are small little details. These are pick out details. These are not things where I'm going to go in and do anything like shading or anything like that, other than the non-oil, which is going to be all I need. It's going to go in here in the recesses, and I will. There's a little bit of a trick that I was learning as I was painting these guys with their bracers to kind of push the non-oil to like the edges of the bracers, and you get a little bit of a better look that way, rather than just having the whole thing tinted down black, or with a black wash. It looks like it's, you know, helping create like a natural low light, natural shading, of course, which is the goal of a wash. I did find kind of funny. Brett has brought in some brushes. And we all have like contributed different things to the studio, and we say like, oh cool, this is something I like to use, this is something Adrian or Brett likes to use, and it shows up, and we start using it, and most of the time we all end up like loving this stuff.
This has been like the best part of starting this YouTube channel, is like learning what everyone uses in their hobby studio as like their favorite products, and just 'cause, like it's not something I ever would have thought to ask. Like you don't even know what the questions. Oh, do you like? How do you do your airbrushing, or how do you set your compressor? How do you,
right.
Like, I don't know, just weird stuff like that.
Brett, so Brett is the only one. Yeah, exactly. My point though that I was getting to is that sort of funny. We all kind of kept forgetting to bring in
actual
paintbrushes, but we have a bunch of, you guys can see, because mostly when we do terrain, we do like really not very good brushes. Like I'm always talking about ugly brushes and craft store brushes.
Yeah, you just go and buy a
big bag.
A bag for $5.
They're actually, the bag's actually a little pricier than you would think, but you get a lot.
Right.
But yeah. Brett brought in what I thought were like his nice brushes.
This thing. Yeah.
This thing. And I was like, oh, these are Brett's like super nice brushes. And you've been talking about how like, oh, I need to find a brush that I want to be like my brushes.
My brush, yeah. We talked about that in our roadblocks to hobby success.
Oh, right.
A long time ago. Yeah. Like one of my roadblocks to hobby success is that I've not found like a brush that I just hits the right sort of cost performance, is on the cost performance curve in the right place. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't want to spend $25, $30 on a paintbrush every single time, but I also want something that is going to last more than a few painting sessions. Mm-hmm. And so I've tried a couple different brands. I just haven't found it yet. I've had.
But you found my brand.
I found your brand.
You found a brand like, which are these?
Here we go.
What is it? Virtuoso, and they're from just Amazon, right? They're just like cheap.
Like if you look at the product description, it's obviously like it's all broken English. Like it's obviously not like. I don't know. It's
like an international company that's trying to
portray themselves as like an authentic hobby brand, but like the pricing is very inexpensive. And this was just like I bought these like 3.5, 4 years ago when I just needed some brushes. I was just getting back into the hobby after a long hiatus, and I was like, I don't know what brushes I'm gonna want. I just need something to get me started. I'm sure I'll find something to like replace these soon, and I've like been experimenting with other brands, and so these last few from this first thing that I bought off Amazon have just like been in the brush holder ever since then. Okay. Zach pulls one out.
What
was your experience?
I've like fallen in love with them. If we do, can we do a top down real quick?
Yeah, sure.
I'll show kind of what I like about them. These are two of them, and this one's round, this one's liner. Here's a Citadel brush, which I also like, frankly, but I'll put this guy to the side. You can see like the hair is just longer. And for me, that's like that's what I want. I want like brushes with longer hair. And then like this guy, if I put this Virtuoso one down and I pull this, look at this is insane. Look how long the hair on this brush is. And what I find is that it helps prevent paint from getting down here into the ferrules of the brush, like down right where the metal part.
Yeah, that's what you don't want. And that's the danger zone.
And that's the danger zone. And these brushes really help make that easily not happen. The other thing we got for the studio that we've been using a lot is this stuff. I don't know who picked this out. Did you pick this out?
I did.
Okay.
I was like, we kept talking about wanting some brush shampoo.
Yeah.
And so Bridger and I sat down one day and we're like, let's get some brush shampoo. Which one do we get? Oh, I don't know. That looks familiar. I think I saw somebody use that sometime one time.
It's really good. And I think in combination with the Virtuoso brand of brushes, like I'm really into it. You were saying that these do that thing where they curl at the end a little bit?
The tips will curl.
And lots of brushes will do that. I tend to not have a problem with that. I can usually work around that. But I think, Brett,
as long as it curls predictably, it's okay.
Yeah, I think you also might find that this kind of resets.
The shampoo helps with that, yeah.
Oh, yeah, resets that a little bit.
Yeah.
The other brush I will say that I am still super into, and I have one right here. Actually, oh yeah, I did take the lid off this one. Are these? I'm still really into the Citadel. You should try these, Brett. The
Citadel synthetics.
The synthetics, yeah. You can just beat the crap out of these things, and they just return
to
this.
No, we were talking about this earlier as well. Like half the battle with brushes is durability. Like, I agree with you. The comment that you made when we were having this conversation that like I'm not looking for a brush to magically make me a better painter. I'm just looking for it to not make me a worse painter, if that makes sense. Like
it does.
Over time, I don't want the brush to degrade and the hairs to like go off in weird directions to where I think I'm applying paint here, but in actuality it ends up in like 6 other places. Like I just need a brush to not do that.
Exactly, I get it. Okay, can I show what's up with the Tzaangor?
Yeah.
So first I've reassembled the Tzaangor. Okay, cool thing with the Tzaangor. He doesn't need to be glued, I found out. Although if you want it to be safe, you could. Here's the deal though. So he pops right back in and like he's pretty much on there, right? He's not going anywhere. So you could glue him if you want to be safe. Okay, here's what I will say. You have to be careful when you go to reassemble all your Tzaangors back the torso into their body. It's not always so easy. Sometimes they don't want to go and you can break the legs off, or you can, because the legs, by the way, are added on here. Actually, the legs are not added. It's the front and then like this whole back with the legs. Okay, anyway, the torso then goes, if you're careful, you can get it and he should pop back into place. Try it out before you get too far and make sure. In fact, I would honestly do this like after you've primed them. Like go ahead and make sure that each Tzaangor has a torso that he pops back into. If it doesn't, there's a couple things you can do, and I don't have the tool here now, but it's this weird pair of pliers I have that are not sharp in any way.
Yeah.
So I know like Brett knows all of these tools, but what you can do, and I'm not exactly going to do it here because it's kind of like these are clippers, right? What you're going to find that you want to do, you guys see the little curl right here on this thing. You're going to clip it with that pair of pliers and carefully bend it back a little bit. Do it with this one as well. And then some Tzaangors have like more hair or like this. See all these like little curly parts where the connection point happens? You might want to just very carefully, because it's plastic, you can break it, right? So you take pliers that won't chip your paint job, and you're just going to very carefully like go in and just very carefully bend back like just the tiniest amount. You don't need to do much, and then it'll usually fit back in. So what I'm saying is if you're having problems getting the Tzaangor to do that, I did that with, I learned that a little bit the hard way with my other Tzaangors. Right before stream, right after I primed this guy, right before stream, I went with I didn't have that tool again, but I actually used this thing, which is the mold line remover, and I kind of used this in my thumb, and I kind of bent the curly parts back a little bit, and now he snaps right back into place. In other words, what I'm saying is, I know we were saying earlier that it seems like Games Workshop was like, oh yeah, this guy's, we're gonna build him to airbrush, it's gonna be perfect. My sub-assembly is not actually what they recommend. Like
right.
And I don't think he's quite set up to actually be designed so that, I'm trying to think how I want to say this, so that it does slot in when you're done painting perfectly.
Not actually, yeah, perfectly what you want.
Okay, so the last paint step I need to do here real quick, I should have done this while I was gabbing, is just hit his bracers with non-oil. This is just a classic thing. We've all done it a million times, where you're just hitting lead belcher or some kind of metal with non-oil, and it's going to make contrast. And as you can see here, I'm kind of on the bracers. I'm like especially hitting the part of the bracers that is like the edge of them, and so that the non-oil lives there a little bit and kind of builds that natural contrast. On their weapons, they're like this swirly candy cane kind of pattern. So you don't have to do anything cute here. It's going to fall right in and create its own highlights and its own lowlights, and that's why people like Games Workshop models.
That's why non-oil is amazing.
And that's why people like non-oil. But just the fact that if you go back, oh my gosh, I can't remember when it was, but have you ever like painted a non-Citadel model or even a Citadel model from like the 90s? You're just like, where does this guy's arm turn into his robe? And how do I do that?
Oh, you're exactly right.
And you're like,
man,
all the non-oil in the world isn't going to help this because
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that, like, from the 90s. I used to paint the Warhammer Fantasy Battles, the Wood Elf archers. I played Wood Elves, and they had these monopose plastic archers in a kit. It was like exactly one pose, and so your whole unit of 10 guys was like 10 copies of the exact same model, and because they're on square bases, they lined up perfectly. It was just this like very like rank and file to the extreme. Anyway, those models were so bad for that. I remember like it was not obvious. There were no sharp lines where the transitions between one part and another happened.
Robes were bad. But I mean, like, and I've had that happen with plastic old GW models as well. But even worse is like something that was metal.
Oh, the metal.
And
ones.
was like,
yeah.
or like they make good models. So I'm not trying to badmouth them. But old Reaper, like all the old Reaper, like D&D models, like you'd get like something. It's like, oh my God, this is not going to take dry brushing. This is not going to take recess washing.
Yeah.
This is going to need to be painted, flat painting all over the place. Okay, what I just did, by the way, real quick, I want a base to put this guy on real quick to show you, to put him on the glam cam, have him join his buddies. So we did a basing episode, and it was me and Brian, and it was a couple months back. It was right before we did our Mega Gargant Marathon. My basing scheme for my Thousand Suns is actually very similar to the Gargants and the Beastclaw Raiders.
Okay.
Except that I'm just putting skulls all over the place. And so I have some skulls that we'll add. And so I used the, here it is. Well, we need to put some stuff up in, this is the AK rough texture. You put it on, you let it dry. Then I prime it, then Mechanicus Standard Gray, then non-oil.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to dry brush Administratum Gray, and I'm going to dry brush Skull White.
And we really like these AK basing products.
Yes.
They come in a variety of different types. There's one that's like muddy ground, and there's one that's snow, and there's one that's, like rocks. And they're very similar to the GW technical basing paints. Mm-hmm. They're just 10x the amount for 2x the price.
Yep.
So if you're doing an entire army, it's a great way to just get an entire army's worth of basing product for not a lot of money.
There are also, some of them are pre-colored, but the one we use is not. The fact that the GW one is pre-colored is fine. You can just paint over it if you don't want that color.
What are the odds that the GW will have chosen the exact color you want it to be? Like,
I did that for my towel, right?
Okay.
Intentionally, but to your point, I could have painted it, right?
Right. Right. Here, let me zoom in on you.
Yeah, all I'm doing, he's just about done. So what I just did is hit him with varnish. His horns are not on yet, and he still has a couple last things to be painted on him because, oh, where'd my spray out pot go? Oh, okay. He still has a couple last things to be painted on him because those things need to be shiny.
Tzach, have you ever used...
We just use matte varnish, yeah.
Have you ever used basilicum gray instead of Nuln Oil?
I have not.
Chad is adamant that it is better than Nuln Oil.
Well, it seems like they have thoughts on it about it being greasier looking and not as dark, and I'm happy with the look of Nuln Oil.
Nuln Oil is too dark and greasy looking.
Oh, I see. I have used some other ones. There's an AK one I've used, but it has a little bit more of a gloss on it than I would like.
Yeah.
Normally, but that can also be a good thing. Speaking of gloss and Nuln Oil, little Nuln Oil gloss right here, and this is a not famous. Let me rephrase that. Favorite recipe of mine to eyes of demented evil things like ogres and Tzaangors, because they end up with these black beady eyes that are shiny. And they look good without a lot of work. You could do a yellow glow, you could do an orange or red glow on Tzaangors. I've seen a few different things. I kind of like them with the black, shiny beady eye. And that's it. That simple. The eye part of a Tzaangor, the model itself is nice. It's like a lot of them where it is raised a tiny little bit in the middle. So we'll get a little bit of a natural highlight peeking through from the gray. Okay, the only other thing I could do real quick, and since I have it, I will, is just the tiniest amount, since I just hit this guy with matte varnish, I could do just the tiniest amount of gloss varnish on the gems.
Yeah, that's another neat trick. After you do your matte varnish on the whole model, just going back over the gems and lenses and hitting them with a brush with gloss varnish. Yeah, you can brush on these varnishes. You don't have to airbrush them, and just hit the gems and the lenses, and it makes them really pop. You can do that gem effect, but having them be gloss as well as have the gem effect applied is kind of some really nice look.
There's his horns. Now he looks like a proper demon, although they're not demons, I guess. The one thing I noticed that I want to touch up, there's always often a little touch up, is I actually sort of don't like the end result of some of the Nighthawk Bloom. My dry brush got a little bit dusty looking, which I hate. So I'm going to clean that up just a little bit real quick in a couple areas with the Nighthawk Bloom. Like I think I said that I found that I usually had to do a couple of layers. So I put the Nighthawk Bloom down, did the dry brush, and then often found that I actually want to go back and do more of the Nighthawk Bloom. Remember, the dry brush brought the areas up, especially the raised areas. The Nighthawk Bloom falls into the recesses, leaving the raised areas clear. So if you've hit it with Nighthawk Bloom, then the dry brush, and you go back with Nighthawk Bloom, you're just repeating the process and bringing it out even more. So it's not a bad thing if you have to go back and do a little bit of the Nighthawk Bloom in a couple areas. Okay, and there he is. There's my Tzaangor. He's off a base yet. This Tzaangor doesn't have gems on his weapons, but some of them do. I actually kind of like the gems on the weapons because they put these like little green points up here. My base is still drying. Brett, how are you doing?
Good. I moved on to red, so I'm doing the red highlights, and I normally use red on the chain swords and the bolters. Bladeguard don't have chain swords or bolters, so I'm struggling with where to apply this red highlight. And I've chosen to basically make the leather bits red.
Oh yeah, that's good.
So his pistol, Bladeguard have this ridiculously large pistol. It's like, if it's like 2/3 the size of a guardsman. It's probably a 3-foot long pistol. And
I love it.
And then he's got these pouches on his back, which I guess probably hold ammunition. Anyway, those are going to be red, and obviously they'll like wax from the purity seals. And actually, you know what? Now I'm thinking about it, I might do this.
That shield. That's
the
like on
shield.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'll do. Oh, that's you. Yeah, so I might do this shield that's up here. I might do that red as well. So this is where we're at. I'm not going to finish this guy today, but you know what I will do is I'll post in the Discord.
Oh,
when I finish it, and share that out.
I am pretty much finished. What I'm going to wait for is I would like to finish my base so we can have a little final shot with our.
Yeah.
I really love painting a single infantry model like this, like we did here today. It's too bad it's really inefficient.
Right. No, it gives you a great.
Especially
you can
with
do
Tzaangors.
You can do it in an evening.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you sit down, you can paint for 3 hours, you can turn out a single model to a pretty high standard.
Yeah.
And so it gives you that sense of satisfaction of like, oh, like I had 7 models finished yesterday. Today I have 8. Like,
Yep.
It's a real sense of accomplishment.
But we live in a world where we need to be like, all right, I had 0 models finished yesterday. Today I have 20.
Yeah,
that's kind of like
it's it is definitely not efficient. You're absolutely right.
It's not unfortunately something that can in a perfect world. But also I don't know because I also want to play. You know, like hey guys, I'm starting my Tzaangors. I'm painting 30. I can do 1 a night. I'm gonna take some nights off. So. See you in 45 days.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm like, no, I need Tzaangors before 45 days. Okay, so just gonna whip out this base here real quick. And like I said, you guys can kind of see the process if you go back and watch that video we did on bases. It's called Bases.
It's called Bases and Faces, but not Faces.
Yeah. And so after the non-oil is mostly dried, really shouldn't do this until it's completely dried. I'm being extra careful here. Then I hit it with an Administratum Gray to give it a little bit of a highlight here. This is Air Administratum Gray, believe it or not. I know people hate when I dry brush with air paints, but it works. So just being very careful so I don't get streaks at first, and then once it starts showing up, can be a little less careful. Okay, there we go. And then last but not least, I'm going to use Skull. We use one of these. There's like 1 million half tiny bottles of White Scar around here. So I'm going to use one of them.
White Scar?
Yeah, Citadel.
Citadel White.
Which is, I've gone through why I have all these. It's because I mix for my Eldar. The custom color I make for my Eldar, and there's always a little bit of paint left. Okay, then I just hit that here. Boom, 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 and that's it. And then he's gonna get glued on. And I already painted my skulls. I'll kind of go through quick how I did my skulls for you guys. And there's 4 skulls waiting for this guy and his base.
These are from the GW Skull kit?
They are from the GW Skull kit, which is a really awesome kit. I have 2 of them. One, I got the first one. I was like, wow, I don't need 2. Although
I'm never going to need another skull again. You're like, this is so many skulls.
Two was probably it. Oh, by the way, I never have shown this before. When you put a model on a base, I like to put the model not in the center. I usually put them off to one side or the other. It looks cooler when they're all like in a big unit of like 10 dudes if they're not all sitting right in the center of their base. To me, anyway. I guess maybe it's a preference thing. But I almost do asymmetric basing on my guys. It also depends on what it is and what else is going on with your basing scheme and stuff like that.
Wait, are you saying like left to right or front to back?
Either or, a little bit of both. You can see this guy is, this model occupies the whole front to back.
Right.
So I moved him to the one side a little bit. Okay, so I've got some skulls to put around on this base. I decided to do the bases for my Thousand Suns. I told Brett earlier, I was like, it's almost like a homage to the Warhammer 40,000 setting.
The Grimdark universe.
And I was just like, you know what? What other army, since I mostly play Xenos armies, what other army am I ever, are they ever just going to be like hanging out near a bunch of skulls?
Tyranids.
Tyranids. Let me think about that.
Oh, they probably eat the skulls.
Yeah, they put everything in a pool and just
You're right.
Eat it up and peace out. So I was like, yeah, Thousand Suns. I was like,
Chaos. That's a good one.
Chaos, of course.
So just lean into it. Just embrace it and have your base be all skulls, like a pile of skulls.
A pile of skulls.
On every base.
And this is even more hilarious because it's not a pile of skulls. It's just skulls everywhere. It's like a little bit different than being like just a total pile of skulls. That one's going to be turning in a little bit, like that. And then we'll have one on the back as well. Oh, put them in clusters also. They look a little better that way than like single. Or at least have like, I like to have one cluster and then like some singles. Usually. Not all of them are like that. Like here's my other guy, some clusters. Just a little skull cluster. Just hanging out. Something happened here. It's not great.
Yeah, when people die, they tend to die, multiple people tend to die.
And, yeah, when they die, they also tend to leave more bones behind than just their skull.
No, the rest of their body, something happens to it.
Something happens in the 40K.
In the 41st millennium, yeah. It's just their skull that gets left behind.
Guys, finish Tzaangor. Let's put them on the glam cam.
Love it.
There's already a bunch of other Tzaangors on the glam cam. So we'll start by removing those Tzaangors. Their old hat. And putting our new Tzaangor on the glam cam by himself. There he is. I can zoom in a little bit.
Focus.
Oh,
Da-da-da.
Let's zoom in even more. Oh, let's cut away while I move this real quick, huh?
Okay.
So we don't make people barf. Violent. Okay, and let's clean it. Oh, the turntable's gotten a little messy. Okay, there he is. There's our Tzaangor. So I like when I'm painting like big, huge model, like hordes things. Like I'm gonna need 30 Tzaangors. I like to encourage people and myself to find something about the model that is going to be the thing where people are like, oh wow, everything else is great. Everything else looks good, but there's something that like draws the eyes in.
That's amazing.
That says like, oh, that's what really does it for me. And I think for my Tzaangors, it's their horns. I also think that the pink, like we've got this Mardi Gras montage of colors with the green, the purple, and the gold.
I really love the pink.
But then out of nowhere, there's just this pink, right? So for me, it's kind of like this combination of find something that like draws the eye in and makes people go, oh wow, that's like weird. Why is there like this pink thing that kind of like makes people like come to the table and get a closer look? And then once they get a closer look, they see the horns and they're like, oh yeah, the horns are just like a Longhorn Steakhouse. I love it with the gloss. And then the rest of the model is like, it's okay. I am cranking out 30 Tzaangors. So the shading, the blending, I could have done more. But hey, it's 30 Tzaangors. There's the pink to draw people in. There's the horn to reminisce of steak dinners. And there's also going to be like 30 of them on a board, and that in and of itself is impressive.
He looks amazing, Tzach. I love this guy. I'm impressed that you're going to replicate that level of detail on 30 guys. Like, when I get to horde models, I find myself itching to take shortcuts, just like the number of hours per point of models on the table, just like really,
oh my gosh.
I get really anxious when I'm spending days and weeks at a time painting a 20-point unit,
If I'm honest, I feel like these Tzaangors already have had shortcuts. But that's nice of you to say.
They look so great. No, they look so great.
So one final thing I'll show you guys I did, not super 40K compliant, but it's too cool to pass up. In Age of Sigmar, Tzaangors are also in the game. And in Age of Sigmar, they have a few different weapon options, although I actually think now, if I am correct in the battle tome, that it's like lots of times what they used to do with models is like give them 6 different weapon options. And now in Age of Sigmar, they're like, this model, like for example, my Beastclaw Raiders used to be able to take calling clubs or hackers or prey hackers, but now like under the weapon options, like calling clubs or prey hackers and the same profile.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of the weapons that they could take in Age of Sigmar is this great sword. You see this guy right here. He's got this giant sword.
That's amazing.
That's technically not a 40K loadout for them, nor is the sword and shield. Here's the sword and shield guy. But it's too cool to pass up. Like,
it comes in the box.
it comes in the box. The two-handed dude. Here's the guy with the horn. The horn is super cool. I went to school.
The musician?
The musician. I'm a musician by trade, and this place I used to work, they had a camp where they had ancient instruments, and this instrument is based off of this ancient instrument called a serpent, which, surprise, I mean, that's what it looks like, right? It is a giant snake, and they look just like that, and they're really creepy instruments. So it's like the perfect Mardi Gras instrument. So there we go. Tzaangors.
They look amazing, Tzach.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah. How's your guy coming along? He's doing great.
No, I'm kind of down on him, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I thought I'd get farther tonight. I thought I'd be like sort of more happy with the distribution and like level of colors. I might have to revisit him.
That happens, right?
Yeah.
You're also like producing and like switching buttons and reading questions.
No, that's fine.
Stuff.
Yeah, I'm not like down on myself. I'm just like not.
Gotta keep.
He's
going.
not done.
Yeah.
He's gonna need. I can. Well.
Put him in
There's
there.
a bunch of Tzaangors. All right,
No,
I'll show them off.
I love the idea of like, there's a bunch of Tzaangors.
I can't move all
I
those
can't.
Tzaangors.
I love
That's
like
way too much work.
It's like going to the mall and like you want Orange Julius. Like, there's a bunch of teenagers over there.
I didn't even get to his energy effect. I was going to do purple.
Oh yeah, purple, red, and black.
Purple on his
this looks
sword. I
great.
was going to do purple on his sword. And I haven't even get to that yet. But yeah, he's just kind of blocked in for now. I haven't done any of the highlighting, edge highlighting. I haven't done any of the washes. I haven't done any of the. I didn't do the eyes. He just he's black with some metal bits and some white bits and some red bits.
Yeah.
So very sort of halfway through the process. But yeah, I know. I'm not sure. Like none of the other models in the army have white tabards. Like they don't have tabards. That's one of the reasons I like Bladeguard for Black Tzemplars because they have tabards, which is very like thematic for Black Tzemplar. But like I don't know. Like I'm not sure if he's too white now between the white shoulder pads and the tabards and the quill on his chest.
Oh no.
Is he too white?
No,
that's sure.
That's cool, right? Like for a Black Templar.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe it is a little bit of a different look.
I think it looks. I love.
And then I'm still a little conflicted about what to do with that shield on his chest. Whether to do that red or just black. I think I'd like to put a decal out there, maybe.
So yeah, decals are big. If you are going to do a decal, then I'd say black.
Yeah.
But you could also maybe they have like is one of the guys like a sergeant or something extra special?
Yeah, has an extra attack or something.
He could have the red thing.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea.
Be nice. I mean, I guess you can also do that on the shield, right? But or not the shield, excuse me, the shoulder pad. But
anyway, this is great. I only need 3 of them to make a unit, so we're on our way.
And who would win, 3 Bladeguard or 10 Tzaangors? That's a joke of a question.
3 Bladeguard would win.
Yeah. 3 Bladeguard would take 0 wounds and kill all 10 Tzaangors in any situation.
Yeah.
Maybe not the Tzaangors.
They have an invuln save, right?
They do have an invuln save, and they have.
Just have to roll 5s.
They have AP1, which is like a sweet spot against Bladeguard, right?
Yeah, AP2 even is useful.
Yeah. So, cool. We did it.
We painted some stuff.
We
had a good time.
What else is going on around here? So there's lots of games getting played, as always, but especially my bracket is still intact for the tournament that Tabletop Titans, our sister channel, is doing.
Yeah.
Is yours?
No.
You had sisters
we
winning.
did brackets last week. I had sisters winning, yeah. I underestimated John's prowess with Drukhari.
Yeah. You know, they've been making, over on Tabletop Titans, they've been making John play a lot of different armies to like kind of learn them.
Yeah.
And John's a very good player. But then when you see, it's like Bridger with Custodes. Everyone's like, Bridger's not going to do well. Custodes like, Bridger's good with this army.
Right.
Like,
when you give him the army that he knows how to play,
yeah,
John and Bridger both, like, they just crump with it.
Yeah.
And that's what happens.
That's what happens. So my bracket's still intact.
Yes.
Tomorrow.
You are one of the, I think, sub 100 people who submitted brackets that are still in it.
Jeez. So tomorrow and Saturday, more games for the TTTTT.
Yep.
And next Wednesday, do we know what we're doing here?
You know what we're doing. I'm not going to be here. I'm out of town for the next 2 weeks. So.
Oh, yes.
You do? Yeah.
Yeah, next week's going to be really exciting, actually. I almost, well, we're going to have a special guest on. And we're going to be doing Galaxy Effect.
Galaxy Effect, yeah.
And that's really exciting because what I will say about Galaxy Effect is this. We're going to see some applications for it that transcend the hobby of Warhammer, of miniature painting.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we're going to see at least one application.
This is super exciting.
Yeah.
I'm going to tune in and watch this because this is going to be amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. So we're going to do Galaxy Effect. So if you've ever wondered how that happens, we'll show you. I've done it before.
You'll see it on like Eldar flyers or flyers.
Someone did a towel, like a whole towel flyer.
Yeah.
You
need like big flat surfaces to make it really kind of work.
I actually don't like it. On like, here's a towel flyer. They're painted Galaxy.
Right.
I don't like it, but we're going to show it on some Tzee things in applied areas. So not like here's a whole flyer and it's all Galaxy, but more like here's a little bit of spots where there's like the warp is starting to get ready to come through, right? Outer space, the Galaxy Effect. We're also, like I said, going to see it on some non-hobby related applications. And by hobby, I mean Warhammer, miniature, etc. But we will see. Anyway, I'm very excited.
It's going to be a great episode next week. Definitely tune in next week.
Great. I think that's it. We did it. Anything else, Brett?
No. No, we did it.
Cool.
Great job. Great show. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
As always, guys, be kind to yourself, each other, and always be creating.